Why do I do what I do? I love nature. I have since I was a kid. 3 years old. I came up to my neighbor with a closed hand like this. Look at what I have, Mrs. Fisher. And I opened my hand and I had an adult female black widow spider.
I absolutely love this story because it reminds me of something I would have 100% done as a little kid. I still love exploring the natural world, and I think part of my excitement for wildlife and nature was sparked by trips to places like the Natural History Museum. I mean, who could not be inspired by those giant dinosaur skeletons or the captivating rock collections, and of course, the life-size three-dimensional dioramas of wildlife from around the world. And it feels a little bit silly to admit, but I never really thought about the artistry behind those exhibits until now. So on today's episode of Becoming Artsy, I'm gonna go on a little field trip behind the scenes to the Natural History Museum to learn about the intersection of art and science from diorama artists like taxidermist and nature lover Tim Bovard.
Dioramas came into being back in the turn of the last century, primarily because they would have exhibits like our bird hall where everything's lined up, in a very organized way. The want of some was to put something in more of a realistic, wild type setting. You can see an animal the size it is, it's going to stay there so you can really study it, look at it. You can stand and look at it as long as you want. It's not going to walk off and go to sleep in a corner, and you won't see it all just standing in one spot because there's so much, and you probably won't see everything the first time you look at it.
I was curious about Tim's process, so he took me behind the scenes to his taxidermy lab.
The challenge of taxidermy is everything is a piece of jerky, right? It's all dried out, right? Here is a bobcat skin.
Can I touch it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would sew it up, I would patch where I needed to, and then create my artificial body, right, to go over it.
Now, don't worry, because animals are no longer hunted for museum use. But I asked Tim, where do they get the animals for the dioramas?
We can't go to Target and say, can we buy that one off the shelf, right?
Right.
It's going to be, or even to the zoo and say,
that one's looking old.
I used to send out letters to various zoos and just say, wish your animals long and happy lives.
Yeah.
But if unfortunate demise happens, these are specimens we're interested in.
After the animals are prepped, Tim puts a lot of thought into how the animals are positioned in a diorama and how that might affect the viewer.
I wanted the females to be the dominant view because when I got here, of course, it was Ma, Pa, and the kids. One male, one female, and two cubs.
Okay.
Well, that's not...
very traditional American,
Yeah,
50s.
it's just not, of course, the way it is. So we wanted something different there, so I'm happy we got to do that. My preference, I do some action poses, okay? Yeah. But my preference usually is to do animals in relaxed, natural poses so that if it was out there, if you were walking along down the road and you saw that bobcat or that raccoon or whatever, for a moment, you'd think it might be real, right? If we do something that's jumping or a bird in flight, you immediately know it's not real.
There are a few new dioramas displayed in the Natural History Museum of LA's PST ART exhibition. And these dioramas subvert a traditional model with things like computer technology, including this exhibit called Special Species. And I got a chance to visit the artists and talk to them while they were testing out some of their digital features.
The concept for special species, well, the word comes from a list of animals that are considered not yet endangered, but up for special concern for their ecosystems. And then we chose the animals from that list, from California specifically. And then we are using alebrijes, making these animals in the alebrije style, but also with piñata techniques.
By the way, alebrijes are brightly colored Mexican folk art sculptures. They were first created by indigenous Mexican artist Pedro Linares, who also came up with the term. They often depict fantasy creatures, but the ones in the Special Species exhibit are actually fantastical representations of real-life animals at risk of becoming endangered species in California.
One of the really cool things about alebrijes is how they're painted and they're very colorful and they draw a lot of attention on otherwise animals that aren't being that much paid attention to. And by showcasing them in this very beautiful fashion, we hope to capture people's attention.
And it's something we're trying to create a different style here that'll really attract people and connect with, but also tell them a story and educate them on things that are happening around the world.
This sort of visual 3D life-size storytelling, I guess all storytelling is there to incite maybe some feelings from people.
Hopefully. Well, maybe they think a little bit more about what else they've seen, how that impacted them, and all that. That's what we want. Create the chance for people to feel connected with nature, to feel responsible about the world out there. And that's why we do what we do.
That's lovely.
Okay?
You got me. Oh.
I know it's no small task to help people feel a sense of responsibility for the world that we all share. But I'm excited to see how diorama artists continue to evolve their storytelling and tell the stories of nature around us. Thank you so much as always for watching Becoming Artsy. Please leave a comment and let us know your stories or inspiration around dioramas, or your thoughts about the intersection of art and science, or just what inspires you.
Do you see this face? Oh my gosh. I'm obsessed with the face on this thing. Look at this face.